How can this be then? You know, we're well into the new year. We've seen how bad the hit was over the New Year period, and yet still no financial support.
Well, we actually have started to see some come very late yesterday in terms of the application process. So, as you can appreciate, the pressure's been on. We're some way into the new year. We've had an absolutely devastating Christmas period. Restrictions across Scotland are very different to England, and as you can appreciate, there are many people on the verge of collapse. So this money is needed as soon as possible, but we are starting to see some of the communication from the local authorities and some of the application forms being accessible so that we can start moving forward. But, this is coming
Michael,
very late.
What sort of relief are you being offered there? Because, I mean, the losses are large. What about the compensation?
Well, compensation is an interesting question, as you can imagine. There are two key things that we're being offered at the moment, which is the Strategic Framework Fund, which goes up to about £6,800, and then a nightclub closure fund, which, relevant to your rateable value, will give you sort of two tiers between 35 and 55 grand. But as you can appreciate, many of these businesses are over £200,000 worth of in debt due to the pandemic, and over the Christmas period alone, they lost up to £50,000 in lost sales and cancellations. So, as you can appreciate, they're in survival mode. Many of them are very fragile. Some of them are, on the verge of losing their own homes. So, the government needs to understand that there is a human impact on this, and many people are under pressure. And as I can understand, they've upheld the public health strategy. They need that commitment in terms of that financial input as soon as possible.
And also, almost as important as the compensation is the ability to get back to normal, to open the doors again. Any news on that?
Well, another very good question. I mean, the challenge is you're going to hear more next week from the First Minister in terms of the progression, but it definitely seems that the noises coming out are that there are concerns of whether nightclubs are going to be able to open from the 24th. I mean, the big question all the way throughout this is a disparity between the Scottish FM's position and the Prime Minister are very different. So the concern that we have is what is the data that they're basing these decisions on? And more importantly, what is the clear evidence, the stats that, means that these mitigations sort of stay in place? Because at the moment, the evidence is suggesting it's had limited impact.
Yeah.
Obviously you're there to represent your industry. You're there also to represent the clientele, the clients, the customers that are coming through the doors as well. And it seems to be a lose-lose situation. Your plea to the Scottish Government overall is what?
Look, none of us want to be taking public funds. What we want to be doing is opening our businesses. We want to be able to trade. We've proved that we can trade responsibly and safely. We've also got further mitigations, although opposed in terms of COVID passports. So we're now in a position where there is no argument to suggest that we shouldn't be able to open our doors safely. And definitely the impact of those mitigations in the settings that we're talking about have been very strong. So for us, we just want to open the doors. But we need a very clear exit strategy and a plan from Scottish Government so that we can move forward and a plan effectively. Because at the moment, everything's in limbo and you can't operate an open and closed strategy from a government that is 1 minute in one place and another in another space.
A very difficult situation. We await to see what Nicola Sturgeon announces next week, as you say. Michael Kill, thank you very much indeed.